of Sales Ops Demystified, the podcast where we have sales operations thought leaders from around the world on to run through 9 specific questions. The goal of the podcast, as you're probably aware, is to turn you, the listener, into a sales operations ninja. Those questions come through the frame of someone who doesn't have that much experience in sales operations. Myself, my background is more in marketing, which is why I think this is a super interesting kind of delve into this new world, this new crazy world of sales operations. And today we are joined by Dante from Springbot.
Yep.
How are you, Dante?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Thank you so much for joining. As with every guest, I've done a bit of research. I've been through your LinkedIn profile because there's some questions here that are quite like polarizing, let's say. And so I think we are going to get some interesting answers from you, Dante. So I'm going to kick off with the first question. How did you get into sales operations?
Yeah. So most of my experience has actually been sales. I have about 5 or so years of different types of sales experience. I've done door-to-door sales, selling knives before. I've done retail sales. I've actually had my own, marketing sales firm where I've hired and mentored a team of about 15 to 20 reps or so. So, all facets of the sales experience. But funny enough, even through all of that, I've actually never heard of sales ops before until about 3 years ago. And it was actually at my current organization here at Springbot that I actually got the exposure. So I started at Springbot maybe 3.5 years ago or so as a BDR. And at the time, our team was pretty small. It was about maybe 18, 19 sales reps.
Cool.
And about 4 months in, I was getting promoted to an AE role. And I just saw a huge need in the organization at the time. There was no structured training. There was no consistent process, no CRM admin. We used Salesforce. There was nothing. It was like a complete free for all. The Wild Wild West, kind of as we called it. And
sorry to jump in. What kind of number of people in the sales team did you really see that start to happen?
So when I began, it was still pretty small. It was maybe 12, 13, 14 people. But then as we started to grow, I saw a lot of fractures between how people were positioning things, how they're going about capturing data. And I just, right about when it was getting close to about the 20 people, I started to see that we needed to do something to make sure that we can scale the right way, right? So I went to my VP of sales at the time, saying that I felt that I had much more to offer than just my sales ability. I feel that I can help put in processes and trainings in place to really help create that consistency, right? Help the team scale, essentially. So we sat down with one another. I kind of broke it down and explained to him how I would do it. And he said, continue doing what you're doing right now. Continue to be successful in your current position to really help gain credibility within the organization. And then we'll see what we can do. And then 2 months later, he offered me the role of sales ops.
Nice.
Which originally when I asked, we both didn't even know it was sales ops that I was asking for. We were just like, support role. And he's like, yeah, that sounds good. And then a couple months later, he kind of offered to me. And, it's been a great journey since. It definitely evolved a lot from when I started to kind of what I do now. But yeah.
You didn't even, when you were getting into sales operations, you didn't know it was sales operations?
I didn't. A lot of my sales has been more like face-to-face, like kind of B2C, consumer-based sales. So I didn't get much exposure to B2B. So seeing a company that needed a sales ops team was something that was pretty new to me.
So because right now on LinkedIn, I think your job title is sales ops director or sales ops manager, right? So now your organization, Springbot, recognizes the field of sales operations, but they didn't before. So at what point were you guys like, oh, here's the thing?
Yeah, honestly, I think when I was getting promoted, it was already needed, right? And luckily, funny enough, our CEO previously had another company, a large telecom company. So in that organization, he had a sales ops team before, right? So he's very familiar with kind of the function of that role. But my VP of sales was not, and of course I wasn't. So when we originally had the conversation between each other, we didn't know it was sales ops. We knew that it was coming. And then our CEO was like, yeah, sales ops would be a thing. And then it just kind of grew into what it is today.
And so you've been in that role for 3 years?
Yeah. So in this role particularly about 2 years, 2.5 years or so. Yeah.
And what is the size of the sales organization now?
Our sales organization is about just shy of 50 reps. It's about 45 or so. And actually, about 2 months ago, I moved from being more sales ops focused to more revenue ops focused. So
very interesting.
Yeah,
this is a very common theme we've seen with almost every guest. Around how that's actually, it's almost constraining too much just to be focused on the operations of sales. And actually, if we're going to optimize the other revenue generating departments as well, we might need somebody in that revenue ops role. So that's super interesting. We'll talk about that at some point for sure.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to quickly touch on, before we move to the next question, the doubling of the sales team that you've overseen, I guess, for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
How did that go? Were there any big stresses, or what was that experience like?
Definitely a lot of stresses, just growing pains, right? Just things that we didn't know or foresee as we just move into a larger organization. It was interesting. We had to change a lot of how we did things, like our process, operation, how we captured data in our Salesforce, how we trained, to really be able to get to the team that we have now. When I originally moved into this role, I was wearing multiple hats. I was not only was I the sales ops guy, I was also our sales trainer. I was our sales admin. So I was doing a lot of different things to really help lay that foundation. To be able to have, now we have a separate sales trainer, a separate sales admin that can help us really get to a point where, and now they're bringing in people. They have a really good training program that they are pretty effective within their first week. They can get on the phone, start making calls, and you really start being able to provide value to the organization much quicker than they were able to do before.
So just on your now sales operations team, are those, actually the question is, those individuals you mentioned, the trainer and the admin, do they sit within your team, and do you have any other resources?
Yeah, so I don't have a direct team that reports to me. However, we do have a support team. Our funny name, we call ourselves the Prophets, but but essentially on that team, there's myself. We have a business analytics. Finance is part of that team, as well as our sales and manager, enablement and training manager. So together, we are the support backbone of the organization. So whatever the revenue generating teams need, whether that's sales, success, marketing, finance, we're there to help be that support for them, and make sure that they're being successful as they can. Great.
Okay. Next question. What do you think makes an awesome sales ops person?
Yeah. So, I think there's a lot of, like hard skills, technical skills that would probably help. But for me, I think it kind of boils down to two main traits. The first one I would say is really the ability to see the big picture without missing the details, right? It's kind of both sides. Sales ops or revenue ops is, the goal of it in my mind is should be helping increase organization performance, right? By supporting sales teams or any revenue focused teams. And there's an overarching goal, which I call like the strategic side of sales ops, right? Can I have an overarching strategy? But to accomplish those strategies, you need tactics, right? Which are the details of the day to day, right? So, the overarching goal may be, how do we improve discounting, right? Of course, organization. Then the little details are like, what do we do with sales? What do we do with success? What do we do with our packaging, right? So I think that's one trait, is the ability to see the big picture without missing details. And I think the second one, which kind of marries into it a little bit, is ability to be the scale. So, with sales ops or even rev ops, there's a little bit of a balancing act when it comes to, especially with how my role plays out here. Not only is there a balancing act of being a cross-functional role, but there's a balancing act in terms of, what's good for the business and what's good for reps. Because unfortunately, they don't always align, right?
Yeah.
Something as simple as, we need to add a new field in our database because the business needs to capture a new data point. Well, how does that field, affect a rep's day to day, right? How many more steps is it? Is it absolutely necessary? And if it is, at what point in the process should we capture it? So, there's just a variety of questions that you have to be aware of, I think, and doing the best to be that scale and be that balance, which can sometimes be challenging because there's no always right or wrong answer, right? So you just kind of have to kind of fill it out.
Being the scale can be quite taxing on your soft skills, right? If you have to manage
absolutely.
these two, the salespeople and the business people. And then, so I really like that. We haven't had that analogy yet. So balancing their desires and demands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. So do you think that actually, no, I'll ask the question generically. Do you think that sales experience is necessary for someone to be successful in sales?
I would probably go with no, which is, I would imagine a lot of sales ops leaders probably say something similar. I don't think it's necessary to be successful. However, I do think it definitely helps. It definitely enhances your ability to be successful, especially if you have sales experience in your specific industry and organization. Mm-hmm. I think as a sales ops leader, knowing the process internally for your reps intimately can greatly enhance your ability to make changes and be impactful. So if you've gone through that role or that process as a rep, your understanding of a small change here and there, right, is magnified. And then in addition to that, you have a level of empathy for sales reps, right? What's it kind of take to adopt it, knowing what they've gone through, knowing what you've gone through, I think can help them in their experience as well. So
you had do you think that experience you had selling in the organization has helped you in the role that you have now?
Yeah, not so much the selling piece of it, but just going through the process, right? Knowing the headaches that the reps go through, the pain points that they have. So using my own creativity, my knowledge of Salesforce and operations, how do I kind of streamline that, right? Make their day much easier, because at the end of the day, I mean, I'm here to help them and support them. So just knowing that as much as possible, it helps me that. And then when I have to do training for them, like I can tell them like, hey, I've been there, I know it, I get it, but this is why we do the things that we do, and it helps them to understand it and I think adopt it as well.
Awesome. Okay, next question. Current sales ops tech stack.
Yeah, so we use Salesforce as our CRM. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we use Ebsta as well for email tracking, stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know if you've heard of Ebsta before. You might have heard of them. We use Datanyze. I'm not sure if you know Datanyze. Yep, a little technology profiler. We also use Zoom Info for my contact data strategy point. We have Nextiva, for a phone system, helps track calls and stuff like that. GoToMeeting for screen share, doing demos. We use Slack for communication, although our sales reps prefer GChat for whatever reason. I guess they live in their email more so, but the rest of the organization uses Slack. Mm-hmm. And then funny enough, we actually use, so we don't pay for some of these tools, but we use Google Chrome as our browser. And we use a lot of extensions that Chrome has that really makes our job a lot easier. So to be able to dissect what technologies a business may have on their website, what kind of traffic that website might have, how many visitors, how they ranked in relation to other websites.
What are those? Can you name a couple of those?
Yeah. So one extension we use is Alexa Rank. I'm not sure you're familiar with Alexa Rank, but for any of the views, Alexa Rank is basically an international ranking algorithm. Ranks websites based off of the traffic and engagement that they get. So like the number one visited website in the world would be Google. So if you look at Google's Alexa rank, they're number one, right? So that helps us kind of understand like what level of traffic is a website getting for our tool to be valuable, because they need to have a certain level for it to be a good fit. We have a tool like Built With and Wappalizer, which is very similar to Datanyze from a technology standpoint. It kind of breaks down what technologies a website's using. We use a tool called Whois, which is kind of when someone buys a URL, they have to put information about who they are. So this gives us insight on who that person is, phone number, contact data, right? So we try to be resourceful in those extensions that really help our sales team, especially for our market. We go for small to medium-sized businesses, so it's very tough to find information on those companies. So as many tools that we can use just really helps. Yeah,
to me, it sounds like all of those are basically saving salespeople's time, right? They're not going to spend
Absolutely.
Yeah, they can just go click on the button and find out how traffic the website is, who owns the website, without having to go and search for it.
Yep, that's it. Exactly it.
Quick question from Jack, who's back again. How do you guys forecast, and do you use any tools or any methodologies for forecasting sales?
So forecasting, we use a combination of Salesforce and then actually another BI tool that I didn't mention called Domo. So within Salesforce, they have the sales reps have forecasting tool, the forecasting tab in Salesforce. But I also created what's called reporting snapshots. So reporting snapshots in Salesforce, you can actually capture what a report looks like at a certain time, date and time. So then we can see month to month how forecasts change. So we've actually just recently implemented that. So we use that as well. And then we use a BI tool, which kind of combines a lot of different reports to kind of crunch numbers so we can see. So, combination of those, we just meet with our sales leadership as well as customer success leader weekly and just kind of go over the forecast, what we're seeing, what are they expecting, how we can help, and kind of go from there.
Nice. So you're able to obviously have the forecasting tab in Salesforce, but then you're able to take a screenshot of that forecast at a specific time so you can see how that forecast has changed over time with different.
Exactly. And then you can run reports on it so you can see like this particular rep forecasted this week they forecast this. So how well are they forecasting, right? And then you can look to have rooms for opportunity for coaching as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had some really good conversations about sales forecasting for different reps. You know how different reps will have different biases. Some will be pessimistic, some will be optimistic.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you need to profile. Speaking to one guy, he's like, he profiles all of his sales reps for a level of optimism or pessimism, and then multiplies the forecast they give by that factor to try and give what he believes is a more believable factor based on how optimistic or pessimistic the salesperson is.
That's interesting, yeah. So the reporting snapshot is something we recently implemented. So as time goes on, we'll have more data and trends that we can analyze. But that's the goal of it is to be able to kind of look at it overall and then individually as well.
Yeah, and you could flag like alerts or like not warnings, but you could get alerted when a forecast is like dropped by 50%, say. And you go and speak to that and they'd be like, we lost a big deal or whatever. But that can be quite useful, right?
Yeah, absolutely, definitely is.
Okay, cool. So might be a bit of a loaded question, but your favorite tech tool?
My favorite tech tool?
Yeah, related to sales operations.
Yeah, it may be a little biased. I would have to go with Salesforce. I am a certified administrator as well. Nice. So, when I started here at Springbot, I've never had any exposure to Salesforce. It was I used Zoho as a CRM before, but never Salesforce. And everything that I learned about Salesforce was all self-taught. We just needed someone that understood it, could own it to a certain extent. So I just kind of took that on when I moved into this role, and I learned so much about it. To the point where there was a lot of business challenges that came up that I was able to help solve or mostly solve using my creativity and knowledge of Salesforce. It is just such a robust, powerful tool, so customizable that it can pretty much do anything. And if it can't do it, then it has an integration with another tool that can. So it's just been, it's been great. I mean, even to this day, I almost amazed. Like, wow, it can do this, and I don't even know why. I'm still impressed. But Salesforce has been a great tool. So, when Salesforce went down a couple weeks ago, that was a fun time.
So you did this. You became a certified Salesforce admin after you started the sales ops role.
Yep. So I moved into this role, having only exposure to Salesforce is what I did as a rep.
Sure.
So the administrative side, the setup configuration, all that stuff I learned trial by fire, right? I mean, it was just kind of learning, breaking things in production when I probably shouldn't have. But, all in all, it helped me learn a lot to the point where I am today.
And you're currently the only admin in the organization, you're managing the whole Salesforce org.
Yep.
Nice. Awesome. Okay, so here's a relevant question. How do you deal with data quality in the CRM?
Data quality, that's fun. So I think this is it's probably one of the biggest challenges that I've actually seen across the board, throughout different organizations. It's just one of those tough things, and it becomes, I think, exponentially difficult the larger that your organization gets. But I approach it from two ways to kind of deal with that. The first is using the tools to reinforce data quality. So, with Salesforce, you can put in a lot of rules and automation and boundaries to make sure that certain data points are captured correctly at certain times. But But in addition to that, we have dashboards where myself and other organizational leaders can audit either our database or their teams. So things like, overdue tasks, unclosed, lost opportunities without products, right? And of course, the list can go on. So we have a dashboard that we use to monitor those at a high level. But then I think the best way to really manage the data quality is actually through training, through reps. So, the best individuals that can help correct the data are, in my mind, the ones that use it daily, right? That have daily and constantly inputting data. So I work closely with our training enablement manager to make sure that our training documents are very thorough and outlines how to correctly document things in our database, but also teaching the importance of good data, right? The why behind it, right? Good data, bad data equals a bad database. So, it's in everyone's benefit to have a good database, right? And I give the example, from sales standpoint of report running from our database. So they like to run reports in our Salesforce for accounts that are sitting idle. A pretty simple report. However, if they are looking for certain data points that are wrong in our database or are missing, the reports are very limited, right? So it's to everyone's benefit that they make sure they're documenting things correctly, putting in all the information so that if they come to another account or another rep comes to an account, they have all the necessary information they need to kind of make a choice of how to pursue further. So
it's such a crucial thing, isn't it? Like you have to, if you put someone into a training session about data quality and they don't know why they're doing it, like it's going to have zero impact, right?
Right.
So that's such an important point. So the biggest current challenge in your role and how you are overcoming it?
I would probably go back into the two traits that said make a good sales ops person. I would actually say being that scale is probably one of the biggest challenges.
Yeah.
Just managing all the different departments as well as kind of managing, the just kind of day-to-day things on priority. It becomes tough, especially since I'm more of a one-man army when it comes to like the operation side of things. So how I overcome it is I use two methods to kind of stay on top of it. So one is OKRs, which stands for Objective Key Results. It's actually our CFO kind of brought that from Google. He used to previously be at Google. And then I have what's called more of like a request sheet or roadmap. So the OKRs, we meet once a quarter and come up with our main objective and then key results that we're going to use to achieve those objectives. And those objectives could be, typically tied in or aligns with overarching business problems or challenges, could be some personal growth that I want to pursue, just things operationally, right? So all those different things. And then tactically, those key results, how we go about to achieve those. And then I have a request sheet where I'm different individuals in the organization can go and say they want to request for something. So I need to change the Salesforce, I need this new process, what have you. And then I prioritize that into my roadmap based off of my OKRs. So, if it aligns with kind of my priorities, I kind of put it at top of priority. If it's not, it may get pushed down to another quarter or just kind of low on priority depending on kind of what I have going on. So
nice. So you get all these requests coming in, and then the filter is that you kind of map them if you can to OKRs, and that will help prioritize or deprioritize them.
Exactly. Yeah. Because there's so many. Some things are, may be important to others as an individual, but in the overarching challenges what the business is trying to achieve, it may not be as pressing. So I have to be that scale, right, and let them know like this is kind of what's coming. Here's where I imagine it can be accomplished, and just making sure that's very, it all makes sense, and everything is always transparent. So everyone has access to my OKRs. Everyone has access to my request sheet, so they can kind of see what's going on in my world, and kind of where things are stacking up to one another.
Did everyone in the organization do that, or just you?
So our profit team does the OKRs, and there are a couple of individuals that have a similar request sheet, but it's not something it's like company wide. Just something that was kind of put in place based on conversations that I've had with different leaders.
I think everyone should be doing that in organizations. But anyway.
Yeah, it could definitely help.
Do you have a single metric that you can judge all sales reps by?
This is a tough one. I actually thought long and hard about this one. I really tried to come up with a singular metric that I thought could provide insights to the sales user. And I couldn't come up with just one. But once again, able to boil down to what I felt were the two overarching metrics. And I think both of these metrics could be broken down even further, right, to for things. But the first one I would say would be activity, and the second one would be conversions. So activity is pure will in my mind, right? And activity can be measured different ways. It can be calls, it can be emails, it can be maybe in-person meetings, right? Maybe sending some swag to customers, right? Depending on your business and your industry, it can be measured in different ways. But I think that at the end of the day, that just shows pure will to do something, right? The attitude behind the drive, behind actually going out and making something happen. But then I think where you really measure success and skill level of someone is the conversions, right? How are things converting to the next stage in a sales cycle, right? From a quality conversation to a demo schedule, from a demo schedule to a completed demo, from a completed demo to negotiation to eventually a closed deal. Like that gives you insight on, how well is this person doing? Are they moving down the funnel? And at what point are they having hiccups where we can help kind of coach? And I think it's almost like a quadrant, like a scale, right? High skill, high will, low skill, low will. That gives you also insight on coaching abilities, right? Someone that has high skills and high will are people that are high performers, reps, people that you probably need to empower more, right? It could be your next sales manager. Someone that has high skill level but a low will. There's someone that needs probably motivation, right? They clearly have the ability to do the job, but they're not necessarily putting the activity to be as successful as maybe some of the other reps. So how do we put things in place to motivate this rep, right? Opposite end of the spectrum, high will, low skill, maybe someone that's new. They have the drive to do it. They go and crush it as much as they can, but they just don't have the skill level to actually make those things happen just yet. And then you have that bottom quadrant, the low skill, low will. And these could just be new people in general, right? Or they just need a lot of guidance for that. So I think like combination of those two can really help you understand how well is someone doing, and then how do I coach them to make sure that they are all high performing reps.
Very good answer. I like the splitting how you would judge a rep based on activity, which is something that's completely under their control, right?
Yeah, completely there.
And then conversions, which is not completely under their control, but is an indication of skill.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay. Is there a specific sales ops person or rev ops person that has taught you what you know, or somebody who's been a big leading light?
For sales ops, there hasn't been an individual that have really mentored me. A lot of what I've learned about sales ops have come from just sales experience and just a lot of research that I've done myself, watching Sales Ops Demystified, funny enough, but some other playbooks, like newsletters that I get that are sales ops related. I can learn a lot from there, but I would say maybe one of the biggest influence probably in my career has been a sales manager that I had a few years ago. His name is Jesus. And he was one that really taught me a lot about just people in general, like people, sales, managing people, how to develop people, how to mentor, understanding what their needs and wants are, and make sure that they achieve that. Which I think has just translated not only, through sales ops, just in all aspects of my life. But like when I look back onto like one individual that really has taught me a lot on how to be a leader and kind of has helped me get to the point, I would probably say him. Not sales ops directly, but just a lot of thought leadership that has really helped excel my career.
Was Jesus at Springbot or elsewhere?
No, it was elsewhere. This was probably maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. It's been a while, but
okay.
Yeah, I just learned a lot.
Awesome. And I want to quickly finish off by taking your thoughts on RevOps, as you mentioned earlier in the interview. Why did that start becoming a thing? And why did you start to realize that actually your skills were required over other revenue generating fun?
So, for a while, 2.5 years or so, 3 years, I guess you can almost, it was always been sales ops. I've been sales ops focused. I sat on the sales side amongst the sales team. I was integrated with them, and I was viewed as one of the sales leaders. However, there wasn't anyone that really gave, for lack of a better word, attention to a lot of the other departments as much as I gave to sales. I was with them daily, looked at the process, we analyzed process, changed things, implemented things so much where the rest of the organization didn't get that although there was much to, there's a lot of opportunity, for that increased efficiency and scalability there. So rather than being so sales focused, so sales driven, I was already being cross functional. I think organization wise, it felt like it was time to expand that and do a lot of the things what I've done for sales for other departments as well, right? Helping customer success scale, helping automate some things from a finance standpoint, making sure that marketing has everything that they need, and just be more widespread. And so, singular focus on the sales side. Because at the end of the day, sales is there, will always be there, but they're not the only ones generating, revenue for the organization. So we need to make sure that everyone also has that support.
Nice. Awesome. And so do you think your official job title will change and move to be revenue operations? What do you think? Or is that now happened already?
Yeah, it's recently happened maybe a couple months ago. I see revenue ops as something that will probably continue to grow in. It does give you more exposure, to the business, which I enjoy, as well as working with other departments and just using my creativity to help. Right at the end of the day, that's for my sales experiences. I'm always solution oriented. So if there's a problem out there, I figure out how I can be a solution to that, whatever that may be. So.
Nice. Dante, I realize we haven't actually explained what Springbot does, so I want to 15-second pitch, please.
Yeah. So Springbot is a all-in-one marketing conversion automation tool designed for small to medium-sized businesses. So if you have a mom and pop online store, you can think of Springbot as your command center when it comes to marketing. So you can plug in all of your digital marketing channels. So it's email, social media, and ads, what have you, into one dashboard. Have a clean understanding of what's working for your store and what's not working for your store. But then what's really cool is you can actually turn around and push content out through Springbot. So you can automate emails, campaigns, and a lot of re-engagement marketing collateral that you send out to your potential customers to help re-engage them and bring it back to your store at the end of the day. So any of those abandoned carts emails you've ever gotten from a store or like, hey, we miss you kind of things, our Springbot helps companies do that.
Fantastic. Okay. Dante, thank you so much. A lot of gems in there. Let me pick out a couple. I really like scale. I know people have talked about managing stakeholders, but they haven't talked about it in a scale between business and rep. So that's a really, really nice way to look at things.
Yeah.
Also, what else do we have? Obviously explaining why to the reps about data quality. There's no point just telling them to manage their data better. You have to explain why. And then I thought he's actually one of the best answers we've had to the how you judge salespeople. So the skill versus will and activity versus conversion. So they were the gems. And I want to thank you so much. If you want to reach out to Dante, I think if you just Google Dante Springbot LinkedIn, you'll probably come up. Your LinkedIn profile will come up. Feel free to reach out to him. I'm sure he'll be happy to take any questions if you have them.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Tom. It was a pleasure.